After his father's tragic death, a young lion cub is exiled from his kingdom. He spends years in solitude, growing stronger until he's ready to challenge the new ruler. Today, we'll recap the story of the 2019 movie The Lion King. As dawn breaks, the animals across Africa gather to celebrate the birth of a new prince. Eager to honor King Mufasa, they make their way to Pride Rock, where Rafiki ceremoniously marks the forehead of baby Simba, presenting him as the future king. As the animals bow in respect to the newborn, one lion, Scar, is notably absent. Instead of attending the ceremony, Scar remains in his den, hunting a mouse. While he toys with his prey, Zazu, the royal messenger, arrives to inform Scar that Mufasa is on his way for a royal audience. Annoyed by the interruption, Scar loses his catch and turns his frustration on Zazu, threatening to eat him, but Mufasa intervenes just in time. The king, visibly upset, remarks on Scar's absence from the ceremony and expresses his wish that his brother had attended. However, Scar, still bitter about losing his claim to the throne to his nephew, dismisses Mufasa's sentiments. Mufasa then challenges Scar, asking if he intends to fight for the crown, but Scar, acknowledging his lack of strength, declines, resigning himself to the fact that Mufasa will always rule. Mufasa corrects him, stating that one day Simba will ascend the throne, not Scar. The following day, young Simba wakes up and eagerly asks Mufasa to join him on patrol. Instead, Mufasa takes Simba to the peak of Pride Rock, showing him the vast expanse of the valley below. He explains that everything the sun touches is their kingdom. Awestruck, Simba asks if his father rules over it all, and Mufasa tells him that one day, the responsibility will be his. When Simba inquires if that means he will own the land, Mufasa explains that a true king's duty is to protect the territory, not own it. Gazing out at the valley, Simba notices a shadowy area and questions his father about it, but Mufasa strictly forbids him from venturing there. Just then, Zazu arrives with news that hyenas have been spotted hunting within their borders. Mufasa leaves to confront the intruders, instructing Zazu to take Simba home. Afterward, Simba heads towards the other cubs but gets distracted by a beagle scurrying in front of him. Like any playful cub, Simba chases after it, eventually stumbling into Scar's den. Excitedly, Simba starts talking about what it will be like to be king, and Scar seizes the opportunity to plant a seed of curiosity. He asks if Mufasa has mentioned the shadowy lands. When Simba confirms he hasn't, Scar reveals that the area is an elephant graveyard, where adult lions go to prove their bravery. Intrigued by his uncle's words, Simba becomes determined to explore the forbidden territory. He convinces his friend Nala to join him, but the lionesses, worried about their safety, insist that Zazu accompany them. On their journey, Simba shares his plan to visit the elephant graveyard with Nala. She agrees, but they realize they need to ditch Zazu first. The two cubs cleverly outmaneuver the bird by playing among the flamingos and zebras, making it difficult for Zazu to keep up. After navigating past the elephants and zebras, they hide in the tall grass, successfully losing their watchful escort, who ends up trapped. When they do, the former prince climbs down the ravine and starts walking aimlessly through the desert. At the king's stone, Scar makes a speech lamenting the death of his brother and nephew, saying that he didn't make it to the gorge in time. Despite this, the lion says they can't do without a leader and takes the throne. After proclaiming himself king, Scar says it's too much work for one animal and that he needs help to keep everyone safe, calling on the hyenas to rule alongside him. In the desert, Simba spends several days walking alone. Exhausted, the little lion gives up and lies down on the hot sand. After a few hours, a group of vultures approaches to devour him but is interrupted by a wild boar that tries to hit them. After the birds take off, the toothy pig approaches Simba, and the meerkat on his head decides to investigate, discovering that the little lion is still alive. Frightened, Timon runs behind a rock and hides, but Pumbaa realizes that he is still a cub and suggests that they take care of him, saying that when he is grown up, Simba can protect them from anything. When the cub gets up, the wild boar and the meerkat introduce themselves and ask how he got there, but the little one doesn't want to talk about it and keeps walking. Realizing how upset he is, Timon tells him that he can change the future and teaches him the concept of Hakuna Matata, the philosophy of a life without problems. While learning about Hakuna Matata, Simba follows his new friends to a totally new area, an extremely beautiful valley with a waterfall nearby. When he gets there, Simba says he's hungry, and Timon tells him that he must change his eating habits, saying that he will no longer eat animals like zebras and antelopes. Finally, Timon shows how Pumbaa opens a trunk, exposing various insects that everyone approaches to eat. Even if caterpillars are not in his diet, Simba is able to eat them quietly, growing for several years until he becomes a young adult lion. In the kingdom, the last animals leave the territory, fleeing Scar and the hyenas, as well as the drought that has gripped the region. From the king's stone, Nala sees what has happened and thinks about interfering but is forbidden by her mother. Just then, Zazu arrives and tells them about the escape of the last herds, but he is interrupted by hyenas trying to eat him. As soon as he leaves, Scar appears with the rest of the predators and asks to speak to Sarabi. Even though Nala disapproves, Mufasa's widow goes to talk to Scar, who asks her to join him at the banquet. Sarabi says that he is hunting too much and that this is why all the animals are leaving the kingdom. But Scar replies that he has only improved his techniques with his army. The lion says that he didn't call her there for that and that he wants to give her a chance to become queen again, saying that the other lionesses follow Sarabi and that they reject him because of her. Obviously, Sarabi refuses the request, and as punishment, Scar says that from now on, the hyenas will eat before the lionesses, claiming that they don't usually leave much behind. Refusing to accept this, Nala waits for everyone to sleep and decides to flee the kingdom to seek help. Taking advantage of the darkness, the girl tries to pass through the rocks without being seen. But Scar wakes up and smells her in the air. Wanting to know who is trying to escape, the lion begins to follow the trail and almost manages to find the female, but Zazu appears at the last second and distracts the lion, taking him away so that Nala can escape. Far away, Simba continues to live as if he were a small predator, eating termites along with Timon and Pumbaa. After spending all day gorging themselves, the trio lies down to look at the stars, and Timon says that they are huge fireflies. When he asks him what he thinks, Simba tells them what his father said, that the great kings of the past are looking after those who are alive. When they hear his version, Timon and Pumbaa start laughing, and Simba gets upset and goes off to eat some insects in isolation. Mufasa's son lies down to watch the stars when a tuft of hair comes loose from his mane and falls into the nearby stream. In the water, a bird picks up the tuft and starts flying away, using the fur to build its nest. In a natural cycle, the piece of Simba's mane continues to travel around Africa until it ends up in the hands of Rafiki, who immediately realizes that it belongs to Mufasa's son, who by some miracle is still alive. The next morning, Timon, Pumbaa, and some other animals are walking through the forest when Nala pops out of the grass to try and eat them. Desperate, Pumbaa tries to run away from the lioness behind him, but she is extremely fast, and he knows he won't be able to escape. With no other options, the warthog leads Nala straight to Simba, who gets in the way to protect his friend. Without recognizing each other, the two lions begin to fight until Simba is knocked down. Just like when he was a cub, causing the male to finally recognize his childhood friend, an excited Simba says that she will love living there and that there is plenty of food. But Nala warns him that Scar is ruling with the hyenas and asks Mufasa's son for help. Still feeling guilty about what happened, Simba tells her that this is his home and shows her around. After seeing Simba's new kingdom and being enchanted by the beauty of the place, she still asks why he has never returned home and tells him that Scar has decimated the kingdom's lands, asking Simba to defy his uncle. But he says there is nothing he can do to change it. Nala then says that Simba has become selfish and that it was a big mistake to come after him, and she leaves immediately afterward. Wanting to be alone, the great lion goes for a walk while thinking about his meeting with Nala. On the way, Simba meets Rafiki, but he doesn't remember him and acts as if he were just another animal. Wanting to be left alone, Simba asks the primate to leave him alone, and he replies that he needs to help him find himself. Thinking that the monkey is mad, the lion continues on his way until Rafiki tells him that he held Mufasa's son on his lap. Simba then asks if the mandrill knew his father, and he replies that he still does because Mufasa is alive. Rafiki says he will take Simba to him, asking the lion to follow him. Quite hopeful, the former prince chases the shaman monkey until they reach the edge of a river. On the spot, Rafiki says that Mufasa is waiting and asks the lion to go to the shore. When Simba approaches the water, Rafiki asks him if he can see and says that Mufasa lives inside him. At that moment, a great storm forms in the sky, and Mufasa communicates through it, saying that he must take his place in the cycle of life and become king. Finally, Mufasa says that he has always been by his side and that Simba must remember who he is. Moved by his father's words, the prince decides to return to his kingdom and starts chasing after Nala. After several hours of running in the desert, he finds the female and tells her that they must go home soon, running with her until they reach the gorge. There, Simba sees what the kingdom has become and remembers his father's words that he must protect everything the sun touches. Just then, Zazu appears and is delighted to see the prince again. Timon and Pumbaa also appear and say that they will fight alongside Simba, promising to support their friend in whatever he needs. Together, they observe the hyena's movements, and Simba tells them that they can use live bait as there are no other options. Timon needs to play this role and lure the hyenas away. Watching everything from the tree, Rafiki picks up his old staff and prepares for battle. At the King's Stone, Scar talks to Sarabi and once again tries to convince her to become queen, but the female says that he is nothing compared to Mufasa. Annoyed, the new king goes after Sarabi and starts attacking her, but Simba appears just in time, ordering Scar to get away from his mother. While Sarabi and the other lionesses are happy to see Simba again, Scar is visibly upset and blames the hyenas for everything. After the reunion, Nala says that Scar's reign is over and calls on the lionesses to fight alongside Simba. Cunning as ever, Scar says that things don't have to end in violence and says that he would hate to be responsible for the elimination of someone in his family. Just like Simba, confused, Nala asks what he's talking about, and Scar pressures his nephew to confess that he eliminated Mufasa. After he takes the blame for his father's elimination, Scar begins to accuse him with terrible insults, and Simba is trapped on the edge of the rock. While walking backward, the prince ends up slipping and almost falls, getting hung up on the rock. Just then, a bolt of lightning strikes the dry grass and starts a fire right below Simba. At the top of the King's Stone, Scar sees his nephew hanging and says that this sight, it is very familiar, saying that when Mufasa perished, it was exactly like this. Scar says that he looked down and could see the fear in the old king's eyes, just as he sees it in Simba now. Putting his paws on his nephew and whispering in his ear, he confesses that it was he who took Mufasa's life. Furious, Simba bites Scar's face and climbs back up the rock, confronting his uncle, who accuses him of wanting to take his life. At this point, Sarabi says that Scar has always said that he arrived at the gorge too late, but now he has just confessed that he saw Mufasa's gaze. With his deception uncovered, Scar orders the hyenas to eliminate everyone, and Nala leads the lionesses in a counterattack, starting a war between the two species. Far away, Timon and Pumbaa hide in a cave, thinking they've managed to lose the hyenas, but they couldn't be more wrong. Suddenly, predators appear behind them, and Timon has no choice but to attack them, causing the hyenas to retreat. On the King's Stone, lions and hyenas continue to fight as the flames spread further and further. In the middle of the battlefield, Shenzi sees Nala and says she's been waiting for this meal for years, but the female replies that she's no longer a cub and that she's ready. So she goes after the hyena with all her might. From the skies, Zazu also attacks his rivals in an attempt to distract them but ends up trapped and has to be saved by Rafiki, who uses his staff to beat the hyenas over the head. Despite this, the lions are outnumbered, and Nala is almost defeated by Shenzi, but she manages to bite her neck and throw her off the rock. Like her, the other lionesses also take down the hyenas, who know they can't win and decide to run away. Watching everything from afar, Scar also tries to escape, but Simba won't let him and goes after him, leaving his uncle trapped on top of the mountain with nowhere to run. Scar begs for mercy and claims that it was the hyenas who made him do it, calling them disgusting scavengers and stating that he was planning to eliminate them all, without suspecting that they were listening. As Simba doesn't believe him, Scar decides to appeal to sentimentality and asks for mercy. Simba concedes and asks Scar to run away, to leave the kingdom and never return, just as his uncle told him to when he was just a cub. Scar pretends to obey his request and starts to walk away, only to throw a bunch of hot coals in his nephew's face. Simba then goes after his uncle, and the two begin to fight, ending with Scar falling from above just as he did with Mufasa. Despite the height, Scar survives the fall and meets the hyenas who survived below. As usual, the lion tries to deceive the predators, but the creatures have heard everything he said and don't think twice about attacking him, devouring the lion while he's still alive. Sometime later, it begins to rain, and the fire is extinguished throughout the kingdom. With things calmer, Rafiki goes to Simba and crowns him as the new Lion King, returning the kingdom to an era of prosperity just as Mufasa wanted. So, what did you think of this movie? Leave it in the comments below. If you liked the video, like, share, and subscribe for more movie recaps. See you next time.